I think it's time for me to just come clean and admit it. I am a fraud.
How a bad musician makes sorta decent music.
The truth is, I am not this guy. I'm a very kind of backwards, laid-back, introverted person. I am a lousy musician. I don't consider myself to be a good singer. I hate taking solos in any kind of a live setting. I can't play the piano fluently at all. My sight reading skills are very limited. I can't even tell you what chords I'm playing on any of these songs. I mean, I know sort of the basics, but I have no idea what these extended things are. So having said all of that, the question that I've been getting lately is, first of all, how do I make these videos? And maybe a secondary one that I would answer is, why? Before we dive into it, I just want to say that if you appreciate or like what I've been doing here on YouTube, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button and subscribe so that you can be notified of when I put out new videos. And if you're interested in purchasing any of the music that I have recorded so far, there are links down in the description below where you can check that out. Other than that, I just really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll be moving on.
You better subscribe.
Yes, subscribe or... Okay,
Or else that might happen.
let's not destroy a camera.
That's what would happen.
Yes, thank you.
If you don't subscribe, that would happen.
Okay.
The song.
I don't really know how or why these songs come to me. They just kind of get stuck in my head, and I think I'd kind of like to cover that, and so I do.
Why are you the way that you are?
I do not play the piano. I spend hours over a couple of weeks just playing through a song very, very slowly, and I'm basically just figuring out the chords that I want to use, even though I don't really know what they are. So most of the time, what I'm doing is actually just moving my fingers around into different positions, playing different notes together, until I get the sound that's in my head. And then along the way, sometimes you figure out new chords by accident, a new direction that you want to take things.
Nope. There we go.
Writing music for me is a very time-consuming process. If it's a simple song, sometimes it's easier to just start recording right away and just skip this step altogether. But in general, it's typically good to have kind of a game plan going in. And for that, I use an app called MuseScore. It's an open source piece of software. It's very well executed, and it's really easy to use. So if you're considering writing some music down or transcribing something, MuseScore is an excellent resource, and I'll put a link to that down in the description. In the case of You've Got a Friend, which I just released a bit ago, I just started by working on the chords and the bass line, and instead of writing out the lead part, I think I pretty much just sang along with it as I played it back. So I'd write a little bit, play it back, and make sure that I'm, getting where it needs to go. I'm literally just moving notes up and down with my mouse. There are ways of playing a song into a computer and having it transcribe it, using MIDI and things like that. But I'm just not good enough at the piano to be able to do that. So it's just moving notes around, sharps and flats and up and down until I get the chord that I want to get to. And I also try to figure out, a general tempo of the song, it's a starting point. At least you can hear the song in its entirety, and then I can move on to the next step.
When you're down and troubled, and you need a helping hand. Jay! Hey, can you stop banging around for just like 10 minutes? Come on, dude.
I record in a program called Pro Tools. I use a couple of pretty inexpensive microphones and a USB recording interface. So that's how I actually get the audio into the computer. It's a Focusrite 18i8 USB interface, I believe. I usually start by importing the music that I've written in MuseScore, importing that as a MIDI file into Pro Tools. And then once you have it in Pro Tools, you assign an instrument to play it. In the case of You've Got a Friend, I assigned a sort of like an electric piano sound to that. And actually, if you listen closely, that is playing in the background the whole time. So if you listen to, for example, the Beach Boys in any of the songs that they would have done more a cappella, they start out in one key, and by the end, they're in a slightly different key, or they're maybe between keys. And you don't perceive that all the time because there are various gradations, in the musical spectrum. But in any case, for me, it's best if I have something that I can actually sing to that gives me a foundation. So typically the next step is to lay down a rough main vocal. So that's the lead part. I just go ahead and sing a rough sort of a scratch track, I call it. And then after you have that, I start laying down instruments and background vocals to back that up. And this is where things can get pretty interesting. For example, a lot of the organ part on You've Got a Friend was played one finger at a time. Now, I don't mean one finger as in like one finger. I mean one note at a time. So basically what I did was, again, play one finger and then manually write in other notes in the chord to get the performance that I wanted from the organ. I actually had to learn how to play that organ part after I wrote it on the computer. When you're down, I just can't play that. I can hear it, I know what I want to do, but I can't play it. It's so frustrating. And that's part of why it takes so long for me to record things, because I just can't do it the way I want to do it. It's really kind of a backwards way of doing things, because obviously the way most people record is that you have a very talented organ player who just lays down what they're supposed to play, plays their take on it. You have some creativity in that, and it's just sort of spur of the moment, but I can't do that. So in my case, it's actually more of a method of programming the organ than it is actually playing the organ. Now, in contrast to the organ part, the brass parts were done entirely by ear. They were actually kind of an afterthought. I wasn't sure what I was going to do to fill out the introduction, and I felt like the choruses and everything just needed a little something extra. And then I thought, oh yeah, well I could go ahead and play a brass part, have sort of a horn section in there that might sound kind of good. And so that was just me playing that, figuring out harmony parts on the fly. I didn't have any of that written out. And that's that's how it goes often. It's a mix of that initial planning stage and then leaving this room for creativity. The background vocals, those were added at various points in the process, depending on how vocal-centric I wanted it to be. So I often will go through, I'll record some extra parts for background vocals, and then I'll change those and redo everything. And editing and mixing are taking place the whole time I'm recording. So again, I record a little bit, I tighten things up, I record some more, and so on. It's just a continuous process. The funny thing about background vocals, especially as you're editing, is that if you isolate them and you listen to them individually, they can sound pretty horrible. Call out my name. But when you stack those together, sometimes as many as 6 different voices, sometimes as many as 12, panning those left and right to the kind of spread out the sound, you start to get this really lush, kind of big, beautiful sound that is made up of really lousy sounding voices. Call out
my name, call out my name, call out my name, call out my name. You just call out my name.
So needless to say, there's a lot of digital manipulation, obviously, happening to make everything sound as good as possible. I am by no means a professional recording engineer or a producer or anything. I'm just trying to do what I think sounds good, and hopefully you like it too. Other steps in the process of editing would be, adding compression and EQ, turning up the bass and treble and mid ranges and all of those things. But again, all of that really is just a process of listening over and over and over and over again. And you listen to it wherever you can. So I listen to it in my car, on my computer, through my earbuds, through my headphones, TV. Anywhere you can listen to it, you should. It's such a complex thing right now because, you've got headphones that really boost the bass. If you're driving down the road, it can be very difficult to hear certain ranges of the spectrum over just the road noise, things like that. The goal is to find a mix that works on as many devices as possible and sounds good all around, or at least sounds as good as what you can live with.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes. Boink, boink, boink. Boink, boink, boink.
Well, there's really not too awful much to tell on that front. The main thing I think that should be obvious by this point is that it's really, pretty much a lip sync to what I've already sung. I do my best to make it look as though I'm singing in real time, and I try to be authentic about that because I don't want to convey that I'm not feeling the words. But yeah, I act very confident when I'm singing. I smile a lot more than I probably would singing in real life. And then I stitch together all of those clips to make it look like I have it all together and make it look like it's a 3 to 5 minutes of effortless, simple music making, when obviously it's far from it. I guess that's part of why I have these feelings of, or I question whether or not I'm a fraud in all of this. In reality, the video itself is just all a big show. And that's part of it. You do have to make the video engaging. I noticed very quickly that when I don't smile, when I don't put an effort into making any kind of hand gestures or any kind of movement at all, the video totally suffers immediately. It's kind of a weird thing where you can have a conversation with somebody in real life and not smile very often, but you're emoting a lot more than you realize, I think, when you're having a conversation with someone. And then when you get on camera, especially when you're just talking straight to a camera like I am right now, you have a tendency to be very dull and very bland and not add any life to it because there's nobody to actually interact with. So yeah, it's a bit of a show. Why do I make these videos? Honestly, I just really like making pretty music, what I consider to be pretty music, and having people listen to it. Being creative is like a huge part of my life, and my wife can attest to that. Generally speaking, I am at my best, like overall, just mentally, emotionally, physically, things like that, when I have something to work on. It's like this drive within me that I just can't help. It's like I have to be producing things. Producing things is life. And I just think, I guess it's part of who God made me to be. Years ago, music was a big part of my life, and then that kind of stopped being the case, and I kind of felt like I just needed some kind of an outlet to get things out of my head, and it might not be a whole lot of music, but it's what I can do. I guess my message for you is basically just to say that you don't have to be intimidated to use your gifts and abilities, even if you don't feel like they measure up to everyone else's. The reality is that they probably won't. You know, honestly, I've seen so many YouTubers and Instagrammers and TikTokers that are so insanely talented that it almost makes me depressed. And I think, you know, man, if I could just play like that, if I just had the time to practice like that, if I didn't have so many obligations, or if I could just go back in time and tell myself to practice because one day you'll kick yourself for not, you know. All of those things, those thoughts can lead me into a downward spiral that is just totally unhealthy. And so what I have to do is stop comparing myself to everybody else and actually just start doing something. And every minute wasted doing nothing and feeling sorry for myself that I haven't, learned music better, that's a lost opportunity for growth when I could actually be learning music better. It's really just about me doing what I can and about me doing something that I love. And I hope that along the way you enjoy it. To bring it all back full circle, obviously there's hardly anything in these videos that I could perform in a live setting without the aid of a computer and digital manipulation. So, am I a fraud? Maybe. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. All I know is that when I'm working on this music, I am happy.